It's a Chinese spacewalk. A bubble rises in the pool. It's complete fraud. Here the helmet gets hit on the International Space Station and a bubble rises into the pool.
Proceed this way.
Tossing some bullshit, and a bubble appears at 3:39 in this video. And it takes an odd trajectory because it's in a water pool. Houston, we have a problem. Space is broken. Sorry, U.S. government. I have to show them the bubble. There's the bubble in the pool that we just saw. Yep, doesn't even go in a straight line. It's in a water pool. Takes a very odd trajectory because the water is actually moving around. It's not still. And here on the International Space Station, they once even got caught with a scuba tank in space.
Which is the faking of spacewalks in a swimming pool. In this vid, you catch a glimpse of someone wearing a scuba tank. Scuba tanks in space?
NASA does literally nothing in space. It's all bullshit.
The video is sped up, so it looks more natural. But yeah, they're underwater, and the video is sped up, and they do this on the Hubble Space Telescope as well. So that's how you know the Hubble Space Telescope never existed in orbit. This is all bullshit. I need somebody to sing the Little Mermaid song, Under the Sea. They're in a water tank. It's from a distance, can you tell? What's with all this atmospheric bullshit? What kind of camera is this? Do they make it look like they're underwater on purpose? They have two water tanks. They have the water tank that they train in, and then they have this water tank for the fraud. They never work in space. The International Space Station is complete bullshit. What's even more ridiculous about them filming spacewalks in a water pool, and spacewalks are impossible, is that the women for the hoax perm their hair. Here she's in front of a blue screen, and the background is not moving. The cable is completely still. And in real life, there would be airflow in the space station. The space station would be making adjustments that would not stay fixated. It's just a screenshot. And they just put it in the background. It's blue screen. And her hair is permed for this ridiculous hoax. This is a video that I made about the absurdity with their hairdos. They perm their hair. It's ridiculous. Their hair stays fixated. The public doesn't notice that their hair is permed. And yeah, the women are completely ridiculous on the space station. One thing that gives away the International Space Station hoax is the women. They claim they can't shower and they take sponge baths. In real life, women would shave their heads. They would not go with hair like this if they could not shower. They just would not do this. Now, women on zero-G planes with long hair, their hair flows naturally in the air. And the women on the International Space Station, because this is all fraud, their hair is fixated the entire time. Why do they even have long hair to begin with? This woman's hair stays fixated in this position the entire time in her really long International Space Station video. No matter what she does, no matter how she bounces around, you would expect her hair to flow in the air. And it does not happen. It stays completely fixated like that. Now the zero-G plane that they work in can be grounded for these pictures. She does not have to actually be working out, and you wouldn't be able to tell because she has her permed fixated hair. It looks like she's still in space. When they are doing this fraud on the planes, you can hear the sounds of jet engines. They cannot filter out the sounds of jet engines with the specialized microphones that they use. You can notice it in the background. It's very loud. Here's iJustine. She has a vlog. Her hair flows in the air, as it would, because the hair is moving through air. So it's going to flow as you bounce around. And on the International Space Station, this does not happen with the women. They do flips. They lay down. They do all kinds of things
they bounce from here to there. They pretend they're Superman. Their hair will never look like that because it's permed. This woman's hair stays fixated. I'm going to put a filter on this thing. She's going to sound like a chipmunk. It's going to be sped up. You're going to hear the sound of jet engines. You're going to see transitional periods where the plane has to gain its altitude again and drop all over again. So they do a transition like that one. And you think, oh, it's just editing. They're just shortening the video. No, this is for the fraud. Now she's in the zero-G environment again. So they can continue.
But you know, you can sleep in any orientation. I have it sleeping, feeling like I'm standing up right now, but like you saw, I'm on the floor. But it doesn't matter. I've got a couple little toys, I've got some books, I've got some clothes, and other things. And just for reference, that's one sleep station. This one's another. Alright, come on back. There's more to show you. Vegetables, cereals, bread, snacks. And that's a good place. That's where you find all the candy. Side dishes, and then some little power bars just in case. So we have all this type of food. Some of it is dehydrated. We're on a barbecued beef brisket. Pretty yummy. Not only is this food made in the U.S., but we also have food here from Japan. We fluffernutters, and so I got sent up some fluff so I could make my fluffernutter with peanut butter. So we have a lot of food up here, no problem. So this reminds us of our roots.
Hello, I'm Sunny Williams. I'm up here on the International Space Station. Now, I want to say where we are. So right now, we're in the Japanese laboratory, and I was flying through space like this. My left hand would be where the Japanese laboratory. So I'm inside. It's sort of like a little phone booth, but it's pretty comfy. I've got a sleeping bag. And I sleep upside down. I don't have any sensation in my head that tells me that I'm...
That are ready primed up to go outside, as we call it, to go do a spacewalk in case we have to do anything outside. Some of the things we do outside is just like inside repairs.
We have a lot of electrical boxes and machinery and solar arrays. And here we are at the throne. This is awesome. You might see the little, you might have noticed the little moon on the outs. It serves for two functions. Number 2, right here. I'll show you. But you see it's pretty small, so you have to have pretty good aim, and you'll be ready to make sure things get let go the right direction. And it smells a little bit, so I'm closing it up. And that's, of course, for number 2. And this guy right here is for number 1. So they're sort of two slightly separate functions, but you can do a little, essentially both, by hanging on right here and doing number 1 and number 2. I might add it's color coded, so you really don't get it mixed up, which is nice. This is yellows for number 1. The space station, it's one of those places you find yourself hanging out in all the time because all you want to do is look back at our planet. I think some questions I had were about what do you do in your free time? In the heart of the space station, really, this is the service module. This is the central post. In case we had any problems, I know a couple of the questions were about what type of things do you have to worry about. And some of the things we have to worry about in space are fire. If we had a fire, if we had a depressurization, like we were hit by a micrometeorite and it made a hole. So we gather here as a group of 3 or 6 and then figure out how we're going to either fight the fire, patch the hole, or solve the toxic spill. And what's cool about this module, of course, it's the central post. It also has great windows right down toward Earth. It has controls to fly in, visiting space. No problem. Это пробка. For our ride home, it's a little bit squishy, but everybody asks, how do you sit in the Soyuz? And you sort of sit in your seat like this. Everybody has a handmade seat for them, sorts of survival gear with us, keeping us safe in here. So they've pretty much thought of everything. And we'll be home on the planet within the next 12 hours. Pretty shocking.
Here's another scene with Catherine Katie Coleman. Seems to be done in the suspended mode. Have a look at her hair. There's something odd about her hair. I know this is zero gravity and hair is supposed to stick out and go all over the place, but her hair doesn't really flop around naturally. It's always sticking out kind of rigidly. Maybe they permed it in that position, or perhaps they're hanging her upside down. As she shakes her head from side to side slightly, you can see the hair always springs back to a particular position with respect to her head. It should flop all over the place.
Professor Lawrence Krauss is a theoretical physicist, and he goes around the country, he gives lectures, and he shows the public pictures of gravitational lensing, something that Einstein predicted and which was proven decades later with Hubble Space Telescope images. And the public is wowed by learning about the universe. They learn about dark matter and dark energy, the expansion of the universe. Krauss has many memorable quotes. Let's listen to one of them now.
But the amazing thing is that every atom in your body came from a star that exploded. And the atoms in your left hand probably came from a different star than your right hand. It really is the most poetic thing I know about physics. You are all stardust. You couldn't be here if stars hadn't exploded, because the elements, the carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, iron, all the things that matter for evolution, weren't created at the beginning of time. They're created in the nuclear furnaces of stars, and the only way they can get into your body is if the stars were kind enough to explode. So forget Jesus. The stars died so that you could be here today. Okay? And anyway.
Some of you guys might be familiar with SpaceX and how they're going to take humans to Mars within the next 15 years. Professor Lawrence Krauss even talks about the properties of space and Mars and what NASA can and can't do, and what our challenges would be and what the conditions would be like. And what is the deal with Professor Lawrence Krauss? Is there any fraud in science? Could there be fraud in science? Because if there was fraud in science that was not being exposed, wouldn't this house of cards come crashing to the ground? Because that's not how science is supposed to fucking work. I mentioned the Hubble Space Telescope. What exactly are you being told about space? Here is space debris, and they say that they have to go clean it up. And they made Debris Drone 1 to go help clean this up. And it has a claw, and it goes after space junk. And as you get away from the surface area of the Earth, you're covering more and more area. So the further away you get from the Earth, at some point, it's like you're covering 2 Earths. I mean, that's how much surface area you could eventually be covering. And they're pretending that they have to go get the space debris. And then they also pretend that it travels in all the same trajectory, and this thing just scoops everything up. And then it has a claw that can grab big pieces of space debris, and then little pieces of space debris get caught on the sides by panels. Of course, there's no in-between. Do they catch the middle-sized pieces of space debris with the box? And then Debris Drone 1 does not send the package down to Earth to get incinerated. No, the whole thing goes down to Earth to become incinerated, and it's fucking useless. So because they say there's over 500,000 pieces of space debris, they have to send thousands of space debris drone 1s. But the important thing about this is the camera. They show you a camera on this satellite drone. So somebody is operating that claw and they're getting the space junk. Why can't you see the video from this camera? This thing has a camera. Wouldn't you like to see this thing in operation? There's the camera. Has little lights on it. It can be recorded. So you can have satellites with cameras in space. You should research satellites. You'll always get a different number of how many satellites are supposed to exist. You will hear approximately 1,500, approximately 3,000, approximately 5,000. You will see people that apparently have sources and links, and they will say that there's 6,000, 9,000, and this number will continue to go up higher and higher. The number that you'll probably be believing of satellites existing is the number 13,000. And if you keep going for more and more sources, you're going to get numbers up to 20,000 satellites that are in operation. And they're supposed to exist in geostationary orbit as well. That's so far away from the Earth. You see this image of Earth? This is cropped. That's how far away this satellite is from the planet. This is supposed to be real video of Earth from space. They showed this on television to the public on Dish Network. supposed to be coming from a satellite. And so the point is, you can have cameras in space. They tell you that you can. In the Apollo missions, the famous Apollo 17 picture of Earth from space, that was taken with a Hasselblad camera using film from behind glass. One of the astronauts took those famous pictures that are over 40 years old that you see all of the time. So you can have cameras in space, apparently. Here is the Apollo 17 picture of Earth from space, and this is very important because you're shown this your entire life, and it's in every single science book. And even though this is over 40 years old, they still show this in the news to represent Earth. They'll be talking about space or the Earth or whatever, and they will insert this image into the news article. They're not even talking about Apollo 17. You see this image all the time, and they still use it. They use it on the covers of science books. This is printed literally all over the world in every single science book, even though it's getting incredibly dated. In 2022, it's going to become 50 years since the Apollo missions. This picture will continue to be printed all of the time. You see this image of Earth? This comes from a computer model. This is from a model that's on a computer of the Earth. And the clouds, the formations of the clouds are exactly the same. And this is very, very important, and I'll tell you why. Well, here is the computer model. The clouds are exactly the same. And you will see images from this computer model all of the time. You should really memorize the cloud configurations on this model, because you're going to be seeing pictures from this model your entire life over and over again. See, the Apollo missions are extremely dated, but they made this, and now you will see this literally your entire life to go along with the Apollo missions. See that swirl of clouds? You should memorize that. Here's a beautiful detailed image from that model. You see that huge swirl of clouds between Australia and Africa, and there it is on the model. And the crazy thing about this is when you type Earth from space in the image search, Earth from space, not NASA composite computer model of the Earth, literally Earth from space, which means you want to see pictures of the Earth from space in the image search, these images will come up over and over and over again. And the sick thing is, they show this model in documentaries about space. They show this to you. The same model with the same clouds. They don't even change it. Here's the front, apparently. Do you recognize that? You literally see this all the time. Here's a picture of Jupiter and the Earth. It's not a real picture. It's an illustration. But see, it's the Apollo 17 image of Earth. It's over 40 years old, and they still use it for illustrations in modern times. Here's another image that somebody put together, and they used the Apollo 17 image of Earth from space, which you've been seeing literally your entire life over and over and over again. And your kids, as they go to school, they see this image in their science books. There it is, used again. In modern times, it's over 40 years old. It's going to be 50 years old soon. This is something that could have existed over 30 years ago. If satellites are supposed to be past low Earth orbit, why are they showing you Apollo 17 over and over and over again? They're not even talking about Apollo 17. Apollo 17 has nothing to do with this bullshit that's trying to educate you. The answer may surprise you. Yeah, there's Apollo 17 again. If you type Earth from space in the image search, you'll see this image over and over and over again. But you've already been seeing it your entire life. You've probably seen that image of Earth over 1,000 times in your life. See, people are brainwashed. They have this imaginary, just this crazy delusion that there's hundreds of pictures of Earth from space because of what they watch on television with computer-generated images. You know, you go to the movies, you see Earth, and you have this idea that all of these pictures of Earth must exist. So when I say there's no pictures of Earth from space, people think I'm fucking nuts. Show me the pictures of Earth from space. They don't exist. Look at this. Earth's rotation on its axis. Apollo 17, Apollo 17, Apollo 17, Apollo 17. This is not only the most overused image in NASA history, this is the most overused image of all time in all of human history. all over the world. It goes on and on and on and on, and the sad fact is that there's supposed to be billions of people on this planet, and they don't have a problem with this. They cannot figure out that there might be something wrong. Now there's NASA's composite that I showed you. That's from a computer model. It's not even supposed to be a real picture of the Earth from space. The Apollo 17 image of Earth from space is supposed to be real. That's why they use it all the time. But it's extremely dated, and now they have this computer model, so they can start using this all the time. And it's not even supposed to be real. They don't pretend that it's real. They say it's from satellite data. That's how they helped to construct it. Now, what if NASA never made this composite computer model? Would the Apollo 17 image be in this picture? Probably. Here, the composite computer model, you're literally seeing this all the time. Here it is, used again, Earth, 8,000 miles. Now, if NASA had not made this computer-generated bullshit, would you be seeing the Apollo 17 image in this picture? Probably. I mean, you see it all the time in other pictures. Apollo 17, Apollo 17, Apollo 17. Nobody has a problem with it. It's crazy. Here's another image that somebody made. Now, why don't these people have any options? Why are they using NASA's computer-generated model of the Earth? Had NASA not made that, would they be using the Apollo 17 image of Earth from space? Very highly probable that they would be using that. Because they do that all the fucking time. This is another side of that composite computer model, which I showed you earlier. That's why you should memorize the cloud configuration, so you can spot this shit from a mile away. But somebody used it because, what, they have no fucking choice? There's probably less than 350 pictures of Earth from space that are supposed to be real. And then you'll constantly see bullshit like this that is based on composite data from satellites that they had to make and stitch together. In modern times, you're looking at computer-generated bullshit. I mean, you gotta really think about this. What if NASA did not make this composite computer model of the Earth? You would be seeing this shit over and over and over and over again. Apollo 17. How does that make any sense? Isn't NASA doing work in the solar system? No, here's Apollo 17 shoved right up your ass all the time. You can't figure anything out. They even use this composite model that's not even supposed to be a real picture. They use it on the cover of Nova DVDs, which is supposed to be educational. They use it on the covers of science books. And could you imagine, had NASA not made this fucking thing, they'd be using Apollo 17. Because they always fucking use it anyway. I showed you this image earlier. Imagine if this shit didn't exist, if NASA had never made it. You'd be looking at shit that's over 40 fucking years old. And guess what? They use it in the news anyway. So they would have no problem with that. There's the swirl of clouds on the bottom. That's that composite computer model. If you saw that, you might think that's a real picture of the Earth, maybe. But you won't really think about it. Now that you're forced to think about it, what do you think is going on? Imagine if NASA did not make this, that is not even supposed to be real. You'd be looking at this. Probably. Sometimes it's slightly modified, but the cloud configurations are exactly the same. Somebody slightly edited it. It's still the composite computer model. Look up Earth Day. Look up the campaigns for Earth Day. Look at how many times you see this fucking composite used. NASA is supposed to be doing work in the solar system. They show you pictures of moons and planets that are supposed to be real. Where are the pictures of Earth from space? Wake the fuck up. These satellites past low Earth orbit don't exist. These are your buddies. You get these over and over and over again. It's NASA's composite or Apollo 17. Pick your poison. They're both fucking fake. Apollo 17 is supposed to be real. It's not. The Apollo missions are bullshit. Is the world going to figure this out? Because I say NASA has less than 60 years. The 50th year anniversaries are coming up, and they're going to brainwash the hell out of you about our accomplishment of going to the moon. People are going to believe that we went to the moon 6 times in 4 years with 1960s technology, and then a decade went by where we didn't go back. But this isn't a decade we're talking about. This is the 50th year anniversaries in 2022 when it's going to be shoved up your ass so that you cannot think. You're going to see this on fucking magazines, news, all over the place because they don't want you figuring this out. So what about when it's been 100 years since the Apollo missions where we went to the moon 6 times in just 4 years and 100 years passes by? Hey, NASA is fucked. I don't care if they fake a Mars mission. They're not going to get away with this shit forever.
You search images of Earth from space, you're going to see that image. I mean, why would you have fake images and computer animated images of Earth when you can have the real thing? So basically, when you search Earth from space, you should see all real images of Earth from space. Like, why everybody thinks NASA does science, so why wouldn't you see that?
From data from NASA's
No, you get this,
which orbits the Earth about every 100 minutes, taking measurements of light coming off the planet. That can be translated into ribbons of imagery like this.
Ribbons of imagery. Why would you need to do that? Because there's supposed to be satellites past low Earth orbit. Why can't you just take a fucking picture?
And then into one of these. And this is just the latest in NASA's Earth from space.
Gap in between each orbit.
So some of those are painted on.
It is photoshopped, but it's has to be.
Then,
yeah, of course it has to be.
To sort of simulate the atmosphere.
And fuck you. There are no pictures of Earth from space. And this shows you that those GPS satellites do not exist. Because if those satellites existed, there would be pictures of the Earth from space. They would have the ability to do that. I wish I knew which of these images were real. There is real astronomy that's done. What the fuck is it? It's not these Hubble images that were shown by fucking NASA. That's for goddamn sure.
Tell you where this originated.
Yeah, where the fuck did that originate?
Who was given an assignment to by eye look at 50,000 galaxies
like
in 1 month and classify whether they were boring ellipticals,
turn left
whether
here.
they were spirals that were edge-on,
you've reached your destination.
Whether they were spiral galaxies that were rotating clockwise or they were rotating counterclockwise. Because if we live in a truly random universe, you should find that of the clockwise,
no, we've established that the scientists are always dumbfounded with new discoveries, which we never given names of who these scientists are, but all of the time, like on space.com, you can be on space.com, scientists are stunned, and then fill in the blank. We have no understanding of the universe, because they're always fucking stunned about shit that's not supposed to exist that they find. So, no. Shut the fuck up.
50. You should be able to figure out, well, how many galaxies are elliptical to how many
years. This fucking hour long. There has got to be some science in here. I'm not learning anything.
Of high energy particles. This project is out there for you to participate in.
You know what, those images are probably bullshit.
Weeks, we hope to be launching a Galaxy Zoo 2 website that will ask you to go out and make even more detailed classifications of stuff that is generally not always small red elliptical galaxies.
Why do
We've
you
increased
talk
the
like
probability,
that?
And now I am part of the project. So
we raised by robots? You're like an orphan?
We ask you to go out and help us understand all the crazy shapes that galaxies come out in. Now, galaxies aren't the only thing that you can look at and understand better than just random person using a computer where the computer is doing
image of the Earth. It's pretty awesome.
A 5-year-old can be trained to visually say clockwise versus anti-clockwise for a galaxy better than you can program a computer to do it. We're going to take this technology, take this idea, and build new citizen science gateways.
You should have like a track that you can listen to fall asleep to.
Cosmic
like
Zoo,
having trouble to sleep.
We don't know what we're going to name.
Listen to Dr. Pamela Gay.
But it is going to be.
She talks about astronomy, and she will put your ass to sleep.
We have built ties with the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter to allow people to classify the surface
now
of the
we're
moon
in science fiction.
And look for craters that have formed since the Apollo era.
This is not even fucking science.
The data from that.
NASA, you are all a bunch of fucking assholes.
And it's always on, but it's much easier to look.
It's just too far in. We can't get there. So what we have to do.
You got that right. We definitely can't get there. Fuck NASA.
Coming to us